Greetings, brothers and sisters. Got a bunch of headlines to get to here. Alec Baldwin suggests solutions to stop gun accidents on movie sets. Don't give him a gun on a B movie. Is that the suggestion, Alex? He says here, every film/TV set that uses guns, fake or otherwise, should have a police officer on set hired by the production to specifically monitor weapons safety. The actor posted on social media, aka Instagram. Yeah, that wouldn't work. Like, how would that work? Isn't like every cop is a firearms expert. It's just stupid. And so, and he's not that bright. Like, he's just, Trump floats reckless claim troubled Alec Baldwin intentionally shot at Rust. He posted that. See, like, he's really stupid. I've heard him talk now for a number of years, right? And a smart play on this thing. And they kind of tried to do it with the Hilaria, when it was outed that she really wasn't Spanish, that she was faking an accent for years, is that you just disappear. The one person who got it right is crafty Jimmy Kimmel's. Like, he was about to be canceled, and he just disappeared for 3 months. He went on vacation for 3 months. And already the Travis Scott thing is taking over the Alec Baldwin thing. And then there's just big news every day. And if you just disappear and let it blow over, but, he's trying to come up with this person. Absolutely. Or maybe real guns shouldn't be used on set. That's just an idea. Police discharge their weapons erroneously all the time. You need an expert in firearms, a real one. Exactly. Like, you have to have somebody who's an expert on the set. And there's just, he's not capable of, the guy who just shot somebody shouldn't be coming up with suggestions, right? He's a producer on the show, on the movie, and just somebody that's highly unlikable. But what he should do is just disappear. Like, that's all he can do. Speaking of somebody who just should disappear, Will Smith tripped 14 times in ayahuasca with mother and went to tantric sex expert after splitting with Jada. And so the guy keeps on divulging what he considers groundbreaking secrets, but he has to address his sexuality. Like, it's something that Hollywood has known for a long time, that he is, bisexual or something. He's on the spectrum. He's on the, he's on the rainbow somewhere. And so he just has to say it because people know already. Like, I think most people kind of know this by now. I know it. And if I know it, then most people know it, right? Like, this is coming from Hollywood insiders. It's themselves. I've, got a compilation on my other video. I'm not going to put it in here. And so he keeps on, and I'll eventually put it again in a video because there's just more revelations coming out every day. Will Smith says he once cursed out an NBC executive on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's a revelation. The altercation purportedly began when the neophyte actor felt the scene wasn't working on the sitcom, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And wait, that was like every scene. And unilaterally made some changes to the script, incurring the wrath of a passel of producers who immediately halted production. I've seen this happen 1,000 effing times, the executive said. You can be gone just as fast as you got here. He came out in that trailer and he said that his whole life has been a lie and a brand, and he's not the person everyone thinks he is. And then he's just, throwing these softball revelations, right? And stupid stuff. When, he needs to address his sexuality. I mean, just in terms of being honest, like, it's not like he owes anybody an explanation, although he's been lying to people for years. One of my viewers sent me this. I have not watched it yet. God and Robots, Will AI Transform Religion? From the BBC here.
AI gets smarter and smarter. How will it affect religion?
Well, AI helps people get closer to their spirituality.
Different faiths.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's the opposite of that, because AI doesn't have a heart. AI might have a superior mind. Technically, computers and, this type of technology can have a superior sort of mind, but they're not alive, right? No matter what the AI does, it has more memory, it has more, capabilities, and maybe can work better than a human mind, at least on a sort of a, computer level, a very, mechanical level. But it doesn't have a heart, it doesn't have a soul. It has, no bearing on its ability to, you have to feel God. I mean, that's what the heartfulness system is all about. It's not about knowing God. The heartfulness, masters of the system aren't like they don't have to be the smartest people in the world, right? I mean, they're not scientifically smart in the sense of, some sort of scientific genius or whatever it is, right? You have to have a good heart. Like, it's much more important to have a good heart than it does to be smart.
Are starting to use it. Robots can deliver sermons, give advice,
Santo, does God exist?
and pray with you.
It's a bit like Catholic Alex.
Yeah, that's just not working. It's just stupid. Like, AI is just probably going to end poorly in some, science fiction movie like we see over and over. It turns on people at some point. And, already now it's nefariously affecting people. Demi Lovato releases their own $79 vibrator. We are all deserving of orgasms. This is a wonderful headline. It's such a just let it happen headline because is $79 high for a vibrator? Like, there isn't enough vibrators on the market right now that Demi Lovato has to release one. The sentence is difficult because they go by they, them pronouns. Because when the publication says that Demi Lovato releases their own vibrator, and then says we are all deserving, does we mean Demi Lovato? Because they are talking about themselves in plurality. And so does we, And so this is what it's doing the language. You got to just the sentence alone has to be dissected because you're adding plurality where it used to be a singular, right? You're exchanging she for their, releases her for their. And so, it's almost like you got to insert the word yourself to make sense of the sentence. Like, you have to convert there into her for you to understand. And even then, like, what does we mean, right? So the way that they've changed language is confusing. And then there's a Jamie Lynn Spears update. Jamie Lynn Spears recalls terrible tension with dad over teen pregnancy. She, talked about how her parents forced her to get an abortion. It is a wonderful Disney family here. Everything that you expect from a Disney family, here she is kind of bummed, and that she was forced to go into hiding to avoid negative media. Daddy and I fought, slinging words and tossing insults. He grabbed me by the shoulders and held on tightly in hopes of bending me to his will. I got in his face and yelled, "No, I won't go. I can't deal with any of them." I ran away from them, panting with rage. She said here, when Jamie Lynn stood her ground, she said her team talked about taking her to Mercy Ministry, a home for unwed mothers in Tennessee, where she could eventually give up my baby for adoption. So they tried to get her a forced abortion, and then they wanted to give up her baby. I guess she kept it. And, they had money, so, I mean, it wasn't like, but they needed her to, he's a momager, right? Jamie Spears is a momager. He was trying to, they have all these celebrity momagers that need their kids to deliver the Hollywood money to them.
That I supplied milk to my family?
Speaking of momager, the Queen will weigh Kate Middleton and Prince William after Christmas lunch as a part of a bizarre tradition. Yeah, they got a lot of bizarre traditions in the royal family. Our family, we like to boast about how much food we can tuck away on Christmas Day. Adrenochrome. Yes, it was Christmas at the Queen's Norfolk estate, and Sandringham didn't sound daunting enough. There is also a very odd tradition every member of the royal family has to follow. The Queen asks each of her guests, including Kate Middleton and Prince William, to weigh themselves when they arrive using a set of antique scales. Yeah, we know what this is going. All right. I'm sure it's not the most bizarre thing that's done on Christmas in the royal family. So this is kind of hilarious. Longtime anchor Brian Williams, this is from MSNBC. Longtime anchor Brian Williams leaving NBC after 28 years. Williams will sign off at the end of the year. With 28 years, 38 countries, 8 Olympic Games, 7 presidential elections, half a dozen presidents, a few wars, and 1 SNL under his belt. And so, let's see what the New York Post has to say. Out like a lion, NBC anchor Brian Williams leaving the network by the end of the year. Lion Brian, this is page 6, same, publication. Lion Brian Williams out at NBC by the year's end. So MSNBC is painting a quite different picture of this thing. What happened was he told a story in which he was in a firefight in Afghanistan or something, Iraq or Afghanistan. And he said the helicopter he was on took fire, and he was on the ground. He wasn't even in the helicopter. And so that came out that he, exaggerated and tried to make himself sound tougher than he was. And then they fired him as the main anchor on their NBC Nightly News, and they put him, they shelved him on like 11 o'clock night time slot at MSNBC, a network nobody watches anyway, right? It's a worse version than CNN. And so, but now they're trying to say, oh, wow, he had a great career.
We got a thing going on. Think about it. We've been meeting this way at this same time, this same place for an awful long while.
Wait, did you say we got a thing going on?
Before we go tonight, as the old song says, we got a thing going on. We got a thing going on. We got a thing going on. Think about it. We've been...
What song is that? We got a thing going on.
Meeting this way at this same time, this same place for an awful long while.
Yeah, it has been it's been pretty awful, Brian.
5 years, give or take. Next year is my 40th year in the business. The earth was still cooling, in fact, when I started as a reporter.
But you still got the jokes.
And so that got me to thinking, and that led me to write something that we made public earlier tonight. And in case you missed it or demanded a dramatic reading, here it is, and it reads like this. Following much reflection, and after 28 years with...
There's a lot of reflection. There's a lot of reflection in this.
The company, I have decided to leave NBC upon the completion of my current contract in December. I have been truly blessed. I have been allowed to spend almost half my life with one company. NBC is a part of me and always will be.
So that explains a lot. He's merged like a cyborg into NBC.
28 years, 38 countries, 8 Olympic Games, 7 presidential elections, half a dozen presidents, a few wars, and 1 SNL.
And 1 giant scandal where you got caught lying in a most embarrassing way.
Good friends were in great supply at NBC. I was fortunate that everyone I worked with made me better at my job. I have had the best colleagues imaginable. That includes great bosses.
Wow, this is horrible.
I was on the air for the launch of MSNBC. My return years later was my choice, as was launching the 11th hour that I'm as proud of as the decade I spent anchoring nightly news.
Aside from the scandal, it'd be great if he acknowledged how bad he sucked, right? Like he's saying this like it was some sort of great epic amount of work that he and NBC News produced together, right? It's just been 40 years of sucking, or whatever it is, whatever the amount of time he's been on. It's been just a lot of sucking going on.
I wanted it to be called the 11th hour, as it was late in the 2016 campaign back then, and I wanted it to air at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. I ask all those of you who are a part of our loyal viewing audience to remain loyal. The 11th hour will remain in good hands, produced by the best team in cable news.
Nobody's watching, Brian. Come on.
Special thanks are due to our guests on the 11th hour.
Wait, what is this 11th hour that you speak of? That's just really bad. They're just so fake. They're not like real people. They're pretend journalists, and they just get worse and worse over the years. I mean, they're pretend human beings acting in a journalistic way, and like they're, somehow have integrity, and they can be trusted. I mean, he was literally embellishing a story to make himself sound good, like he was a part of a firefight. And, when you get caught lying once as a news person, I mean, they lie all the time, but something like that takes it to a whole nother level. You lose all credibility. And the network loses all credibility, and they kept him around for, another, 10 years or so. And the other funny thing is that scandal would barely be a blip today, right? With everything else that's going on. Alec Baldwin shooting people and, the stuff that happened with Travis Scott. I mean, these are just, they last about a week-long scandal, and then they move on to something else that's even worse, or at least it's newer. And so that's how it all works. And so there's a comment here. While I was editing this video, I saw this comment, and it said, "The earth is not overpopulated. God made enough room and resources for everyone. Rich people are the problem, not overpopulation, greed." Again, this is in kindergarten. So first I want to talk about the comment, but then I want to talk about stuff with the truther stuff. I'm going to do a video. There's a great anti-vaxxer thing that happened that somebody sent me this morning, but I'll do that on my other channel, so you can look out for videos on my other channel. I'm trying to do one on each channel every day, or one every other day on the other channel. But anyways, this person's saying that overpopulation, that God made enough room and resources for everyone, that's just ridiculous. Because there has to be a point where there's too many people, right? And I've explained this over and over again, but people just can't get it. And I don't understand why. Well, I understand why. Because you lock into truther like dogma that's false. There's a lot of just BS truther stuff out there. And so let me address some of it here. But the first part is that at some point there's going to be too many people. And it isn't globally, it's locally. Overpopulation is always local. You can have vast areas where there isn't an overpopulation of people, or whatever it is, right? Like I said, there's never going to be overpopulation of kangaroos in Canada, but you can get an overpopulation of kangaroos in Australia. And so it's local. You have to understand it. It's a local situation. And we have big, giant cities, and they're overpopulated. And so there's not enough resources in the sense that human beings, like I said before, in terms of one of the great heartfulness teachings, that needs are finite. You can expect to get your needs met by God, but not your wishes. Your wishes are infinite. Just think about that. It's not rocket science. You can get your needs met because your needs are, place to sleep and food, whatever it might be. Your desires, your wants, you can, want a 1 million square foot home. You could want the whole earth. You could want the whole universe. And so your desires aren't possible. Like meeting your desires, everyone's desires aren't possible because people are going to want conflicting wishes. But your needs, sure. But people are desire-based. And so this person says greed. Well, every American person is greedy compared to the people that live on $1 a day or $2 a day, right? 50% of the world lives on less than $2 a day, $2 a day or less. And so 1/3 on $1 a day. I mean, we are using up 20% of the world's resources. And so there isn't enough resources. Oil is finite. There'll be a point where there's no more oil. there's just so much, of everything. So much oil, so much wood, so much, different types of minerals, so much gold, so much silver, right? It's finite. It's all finite. The earth itself is finite. Even water, we have more water than anything else, at least on the surface. And even the water is finite. And so everyone needs to understand that. And in America, like we're draining the aquifers, we're going to run out of fresh water. And the one thing that America has better than any other continent in the world, North America, is water, fresh water. There's lots of salt water, but very little fresh water. And with the Great Lakes and all the wonderful aquifers, America is a very, a fresh water abundant. And we're still running out of water because of people living in the desert. But either way, the earth is overpopulated with people in small localities all around the globe. And not all the resources on this planet were given to you by God, right? Like that's just something you got from your bogus religion. But the real problem is there are these theories, these ideas that have, wrong ideas that have been solidified within most truthers. So you watch most truthers and they'll tell you, oh, the world's not overpopulated because they have bought into this idea. I believed it for a while. And then, I thought about it. When I drove across 3 different cities in India, where there's 1 billion people. And one of the cities had, I believe, 26 million people, another city 16, and another city, I'm not sure, 11 or 12. And they were just brutal. Like it was soul crushing. Just driving from one side to the other, and that wasn't going through the whole city. Just the crush of humanity, how many people you see, how many people are packed on top of each other. And then I drove up from Washington, D.C. all the way up to New York City. And it's just one big city. All these states blend into each other, city upon city. No, rural land. I mean, we go out west, there's all this rural land, but there's no water out there. So, it's hard for people to live. And so most of the people live in coastal areas. And now with all the cities and people packed on top of each other, it's certainly overpopulated. But that's not, the point of this, me adding this. It's that when an idea gets floated out in the truth community and everybody shares it, and it's like, they become these, like the 10 Commandments or something. And so when you say, oh, it's overpopulated, I'll always get people, no, it's not, no, it's not, no, it's not. Learn to be open-minded, right? There's a lot of just BS in the truth community, a lot of dumb people putting out bad content or misinformation intentionally, and then it just gets passed around and everybody believes it, but it's not true. That's what led to the whole QB debacle. Like, you got to be able to think for yourself. I mean, most people can't think for themselves. They just come and they say they're awoken, right? They said they woke up, they've awakened, but they just, are listening to other people tell them what's up, and then they just exchange one indoctrination for another. They exchange their mainstream indoctrination for truther indoctrination. And it's not, you have to change, right? It's not you're changing your programming. You're changing your way that you synthesize information, the way you process information, and you're able to use, your mental faculties. In the heartfulness system, you're using your heart and connecting to God and, connecting to the etheric world. And that's the best way, because God is participating in what you need to know, because you don't need to know everything. In fact, nobody can. And so you just need to know what you need to know to make the right decision, to make the decision your soul wants you to make. And so that's a whole process. It's a whole thing. You have to rework yourself, because people use their, mental process alone with the indoctrination they get. And they often make bad decisions because they have a warped view of reality. They have their own perception of reality. And it's almost always flawed, deeply flawed. And then they have, no skills. They haven't learned how to use their mind in a critical way. And so they base all their decisions on what other people tell them is happening in the world, right? Most people are weak and confused and don't have the ability to think for themselves. And so, you were told, all right, the mainstream media says the world's overpopulated. And so you don't believe them because they're the mainstream media. And then these truthers come out, well, we can fit everybody in Texas in the world with 1 acre of land or piece. Yeah, that's not the case, right? And that's not how it works, because it's clusters of overpopulation all over the world. There's plenty of open area. Many of it's uninhabitable, but that doesn't mean human beings get to occupy every part of it. And we're extracting resources from all over the world to feed these cities. And you can see the way people are in cities. They're insane. The cities breed mental illness and unnatural living. And so human beings were never supposed to live in cities the way we're living. And the cities with these high-rise apartments and, all these places where people are packed together in small areas. That's what they want to do with the Agenda 21 stuff. And so, yeah, we are overpopulated. And it's, having a negative effect. People are getting worse and worse. Moral depravity and then all the rest of it. Breaking down physically. There's real problems with it. But the more important thing is, you don't really know anything. Just because we watch stuff and we read stuff on the internet, we're limited to, our experiences and our training and our expertise. And so everyone should be lighter about it. I don't care if you believe the world's not overpopulated. Just don't tell me about it, right? I've gone through my own process. I've made up my decision, and I'm explaining it here, and you can accept it or not. It doesn't bother me. And I could be wrong. I'm not in this particular instance, but in other places, And wrong doesn't mean, completely wrong. It could mean, well, it's just not a clear understanding, right? That's the other part. It's not like yes or no or on or off, wrong or right, binary. It's on a scale. How much do you see? You might be on the right track. I might be on the right track, but, how much do I see? Because, we have limited amount of information and our, perceptive abilities. But, I get these comments all the time from people I can tell, they're not good thinkers. They're not smart, but they're also not, they're just not good at understanding what's going on around them. There's people who are just always wrong. They always end up on the wrong side of things. And a lot of them end up in the truth community. And they're just pissed off at the system, but they don't really, understand what's going on here. They're kind of lost in the truth community. And they're still looking for some rigid, explanation because, the government and the system gives you the official story and it's very rigid. Don't ask questions. I mean, I just covered this on my other channel yesterday, right? Where, CNN's answer to everything is, oh, we got to censor everybody and make them, come to here, right? Make them come to CNN. And I'll probably cover that in a long video here, maybe just a narration. But there was a guy on there saying, if you go out there looking for disinformation, the algorithms will give you what you want. Of course they will. That's what algorithms are supposed to do. If they give you what you don't want, you'll stop using the search engine. And they're complaining about it. But they don't want you to think for themselves. That's what's going on with this whole thing now to do with, vax versus anti-vax. They want to, get people to stop researching and making up their mind and just trust the system and the government. And that's very rigid. But then when you're on your own, there's no set answers for most things. Because now you're going and combing through the data yourself and doing your own research. And, you can just stop at the first bit of research you do, the first thing you find, and go, all right, I'm throwing out my old indoctrination from the system, and I'm going to replace it with this person's opinion that I saw in this video. And then that's, then you're just as sucky as you were before, right? You have to find a way to process information and change the way that you look at the world and, realize that it's not going to be you're going to get the, definite answer all the time. Oftentimes you'll just get a partial answer, or you'll, get some information and you need to go through some experiences to understand it and mature in some way. And that's so lacking in the truth community. I mean, it's just, it's just kind of a shit show out here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Rovato, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.